Hello everyone, welcome to this week in Tyranny. It's the most hardcore news show on earth. It's Saturday, September 21st, 2024, which means it's episode 94. I'm Conrad Rogas. My website is truthandlaw.com. We talk about tyranny week in and week out. This week we've got some breaking news. This has really come out in a day or so. This is a live thing this week, that the former senior health advisor to the New York mayor during the COVID-19 pandemic, he got recorded undercover. He got a secret recording done of him, a series of recordings, and he's been exposed for forcing vaccines on people, for having sex parties while everybody was in lockdown, all of this scandalous stuff. And this was broken by Steven Crowder, thanks to a woman who was working for Steven Crowder, who befriended this man, went on some dates with him, and found this stuff out and recorded him. So nice, juicy, funny story. It's funny to me, and it'll get funny. So I'm just going to dive right into it. Jay Varma is a physician and epidemiologist who is the executive vice president and chief medical officer of SIGA Technologies. I've talked about him before. He previously served as senior advisor for the public health and COVID-19 response to New York City Mayor Bill deBlasio. This guy Jay Varma was known as like the COVID-19 architect. He was like the Fauci of New York. He was on TV every day, telling people what to do. Quick bio, quick synopsis. This guy graduated from Harvard. He worked for the CDC and infectious diseases for 20 years. Then during the pandemic, this guy became the senior health advisor, which means he was the one really making the decisions, because what happened around that time is it seemed like government was not making any decisions. They just say trust the science. So then they put up the scientists and they make the decisions. Anyway, admittedly by Varma in these recordings, he was the one who convinced the mayor of New York to make the vaccine mandatory. So this is the guy who makes the vaccine mandatory in New York. Big deal. Now he works for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, right? He was really only in the public sphere for that year, 2020-21. And what has come out, I'm going to play the whole thing directly from Steven Crowder's YouTube channel. And I'm going to cut out the start and the end. But essentially, I'm playing this thing uninterrupted, including Steven Crowder's commentary. And then I'm going to respond to it. I'm kind of like even rushing the intro. I just did a 2-hour show last week. And it's not that I'm short on time. I want to make sure people get straight to the information. I want to break this news. I want it to happen quickly, efficiently. Because this should be seen. So I want people to see this. That's why I'm going to play it in one block. And also this week, I've seen some reviews where, the ones where people are watching TikTok videos and you got their face on the side and they're playing the TikTok over there and then responding. It's really low quality content. I have a lot of contempt for that. So I'm going to do it how I should be done. I'm going to do it by example. First, I'm going to play you the thing that we're actually reacting to, and then I'll actually react to it. And then we're going to go through a progression here, how things should be. So here we go. This will be about 10 minutes.
So funny, it's like because I did all this like deviant like sexual stuff while I was like on TV and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And people are like, aren't you afraid? Aren't you embarrassed? And I was like, no, actually, I'm like really like I love being my authentic self. So I've had every type of range of everything.
Okay.
And I've been to a lot of like sex parties, lots of like play parties and stuff like that.
Okay, so what were the sex parties like during COVID?
So that I didn't. So I never went to a like public type one. We actually had my wife and I had one with our friends, like in August of like that first summer, because all our friends were just like, well, it wasn't so much sex. They were just like, I need to get like this energy out of me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we rented a hotel. I had to kind of sneaky about it because hotels didn't want people gathering there. Because I was like running the entire COVID response of the city, I had a whole I had everything get tested the right way. Told me where to get tested, to show me the results. And it was fun. We all took Molly, and it was like 8 or 9 of us, and 10 of us in a room, and And everybody had a blast because everybody was like so pent up because it had been like everybody was just like stuck together and stuff like that. And sometimes it isn't so much about like bigotry, it's like sometimes it's just something about like bodies being close to each other, right? Just being like naked with friends. During COVID, we just had private parties. I didn't go to anything big. Yeah, so it was just home in our home or other places. That was what we did during COVID because in like it was like August 2020, all of our friends, we have a lot of big group of friends and stuff who were all just play Poly World. Everybody was just like pent up, and so I did like a whole like testing protocol for everybody. It was a relatively small. I mean, small isn't like no COVID test. It was like 10 to 12 people.
Okay, so violate the draconian lockdowns that the rest of the population has to follow for a mass sex party once, shame on me. Violate your own draconian mandates again over a year later when your rules only allow for a max gathering of 50 people so that you can attend a drug-fueled underground dance party with 4 times that number of people. Shame on.
Now, officials say gatherings continue to play a role in the increase. While anyone planning on a big party, officials are telling you, think again.
The only way I could do this job for the city was if I had some way to blow off steam every now and then.
Do you think you'd have gotten like a hard time if like the New York City found out that you were having sex parties during COVID?
Yeah, it would have been a big deal. Yeah, it would have been real embarrassing.
Yeah, you can keep it. Yeah, keep it.
Actually, the only time I felt kind of nervous was fairly early on, right when we were about to do the vaccine mandate, right before we did it. I hadn't been to any like dance clubs in New York City yet. And we went to we had a wild night, like we went to like a boat, there's always dance parties on boats. And then we went to some like underground like dance party, like underneath a bank in Wall Street. And we were all rolling, we were all taking Molly, and everybody was high. And I was so happy because I hadn't done that in like a year and a half, like a year or whatever. And but I was looking around being like, I wonder if anybody sees me, they're gonna do, because this was not COVID friendly. It was like May or June of 2021. So it was like the spring. So the vaccines had become available, but nobody had really kind of thought about having like, well, I had never thought of going to a big scale party.
Was the vaccine mandate out?
Not yet. It was for small groups. It was for certain city workers, but there wasn't a citywide. You can't go to clubs or bars yet. That happened in June.
So people were like losing their jobs at that time if they didn't get it.
There might have been, but not it's a very small number of people. Most people, everybody can get it eventually.
How big was the party?
It was probably 200 people. It was like the bottom of some bank. And then when your turn comes up to get the vaccine, we want you to get that because that is the path to parties.
Okay, so that seems bad at first glance. And second, and all of them. But I'm willing to bet that giant sex parties are not what you missed most, and certainly not what you missed out on most during the COVID pandemic, if you were in New York. Probably loved ones, holidays, family gatherings, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas, that time where Governor Cuomo was sicking law enforcement on unsuspecting citizens and you were being chastised by your elected officials. What about that? What did Mr. Varma do then?
Health officials discouraging travel during the approaching holiday season as scores of cities are dealing with surges in coronavirus cases.
My wife's family was in Seattle and they went back over Christmas, that first COVID Christmas. I couldn't go because publicly I had encouraged New Yorkers not to travel. And so, the mayor was like, you really can't go with your family, you gotta stay here. Because if they catch you if somebody takes a picture at the airport of you, they'll...
Did the mayor know about your party?
No, I don't talk about that part of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, that one's pretty rough too. But I'm sure these people believe some of what they espouse. For example, a lot of you who didn't get the vaccine, right, because you believe there was some kind of natural immunity if you'd already had the virus, and you were told absolutely not. That's not the case, especially in New York. Social distancing, masks, you need a minimum of 4 doses of the vaccine.
And if you're 50 years old or above, you need 4 doses.
I'm sure that's consistent when they don't know cameras are running, right?
I know people that won't have sex with someone that didn't get the COVID vaccine. And I don't know enough to know if that's like
bizarre. That's like a weird I think it's a weird belief that somehow their body is different. It doesn't make any difference at all. Everybody's been exposed to the virus, and they're exposed to the virus because it breathed on you or because you got it injected you. It's the same immune response.
Okay, so it turns out science is a thing, and that one looks kind of bad. But let's not rush to judgment. Don't write Dr. Varma off as some power-hungry villain just yet. Good people sometimes do bad things, or they make mistakes. Those in charge could still have been looking out for you, and in no way does this prove that people like Dr. Varma get a thrill out of psychologically manipulating people to abuse their own power, exert control, while completely disregarding the life-destroying rules that they apply to people like you, right? Right?
When it comes to the vaccine, I think people will believe it more if it's really consistently validated by healthcare professionals.
deBlasio.
Yeah.
So how did you convince him to do the mandate?
Well, I had actually been talking to him about it since even before the vaccines were available. I was like, you're going to have to do it this way. And so he came up with this metaphor. We're going to climb this ladder. We're going to first start voluntarily, and then we're going to be pushing it.
So the way we do it in public health is we make it very uncomfortable to be unvaccinated. Doing the vaccine, it's like, oh, you can't get a job, you can't go to a restaurant, your kid can't go to school. It's like, I'm just gonna get vaccinated.
So was it technically kind of forcing you?
Yeah, that's what you force people by making it really uncomfortable. Your car comes with seatbelts and airbags. You have to actively, and it beeps all the time. So you can still drive without a seatbelt, right? The car doesn't shut off, but it beeps all the time.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. The whole idea is you build barriers so that people are just gonna do it because I'm tired of being wrong.
So it was kind of forcing you.
Yeah, and the whole point of the education is, this is where I have all these talks I give people at public health about it. It's people think, oh, I'm gonna give you lots of information so you'll do the right thing. No, the reason I give you the information is so that I'm gonna make it really hard to be unvaccinated. And then and I'm going to also give you a lot of information about getting vaccinated and why it's good, so that once you finally say, it, I'm just going to get vaccinated, you at least know that, oh, well, at least they told me it's really safe. So do you understand the difference? They didn't get vaccinated because they heard it was safe. They gave in because it was really hard.
It's not so much about finding them and arresting them. It's about making the default, what we call the default choice, the easy one. So you just have to do it that way.
I mean, are people really smart enough to deal with this on their own?
No, that's why we require it.
Smart.
And that's why I told you about the education. It's I don't expect the education to change your behavior. I'm just going to make it really hard for you to do your job. And then I'll give you education so that when you finally give in, you'll be like, oh, well, I guess it was the right thing.
Now, the first thing that is striking to me is the honesty. It's the thing that just jumped out at me. It could be easy. This guy's easy to hate, right? He's very punchable, right? I know people would be shocked. People will be frustrated, angry. I get all that. The thing that's striking for me, who kind of expects people to be like this, I expect people in government to be like this guy. What's striking is the honesty for me. Now, currently, I'm reading 1984 by George Orwell. And speaking of reactions, I'm actually going to do a book review channel where I'm going to talk about, we're going to do 1984, we're going to do Brave New World. And this is something that's going to be done by the end of the year. I'm trying to have that set up and having the series going on 1984. So I never read that book before. I just finished chapter 5 this week. And in chapter 5, the main character is talking to a guy named Syme. And Syme is somebody who works for the government. Of course, in this novel, 1984, the government is very dystopian, very advanced socialism, controlling every aspect of life, totalitarian. So this guy Syme, he works for the government, and what he does specifically is he changes language. He works to alter the language, to destroy words, to get rid of words so that people can be controlled. And he talks to the main character, Winston, about this vision to destroy language, destroy the old language that had a definitive meaning, and to to replace it with this ambiguous language and to even take away the concept of freedom. So that word would go away. So people would not even have a word to describe it. If you've seen last week's show 93, that I've talked about this thing about language. And he says, Syme says in this, that the goal of it all is unconsciousness, that orthodoxy is unconsciousness. And in that moment, the main character thought, Syme will be vaporized. He's too intelligent. He speaks too clearly. He sees too clearly and speaks too plainly. And that jumped into my mind when I was watching Jay Varma. This is a guy who just speaks too openly. So one of my main points of this is, don't think that this guy is like one of the elite that is controlling things. He's a sloppy kind of an elite. This guy is an errand boy. He's going to get thrown under the bus just like Jeffrey Epstein. These type of guys. They look like they're in the club. Harvard guy, you know, he's connections on TV. I'm sure he's making a lot of money being in Seagate Technologies, working in the CDC for all that time, leading all of these programs in different countries with infectious diseases. So yeah, he looks like he's in the club, but this is not a high-level guy. And his openness, his brazen openness, talking to a normal person like a girl that he met. What I thought about Jay Varma, honestly, is that he has a semblance of humanity left. I don't want people to misconstrue that. And when we say he's too intelligent, right? Okay, he might not be too intelligent, this guy. But he exposes the agenda by stating its premises clearly. This is something that's rarely done, and it's a big no-no. They can expose what they're doing, right? But these people, you know, Bill Gates, what's his name, Yuval Harari, they say the things they're doing, but they rarely state their premises clearly. It's a big no-no for them. And I'll talk about what that is. But this is not what a villain looks like. This is not the villain in today's world. This guy's not the epitome of evil. But for his psychology and all, I'm going to, of course, touch on that a lot more. Before we do, though, we got to get into the juicy stuff. Let's talk about the sex parties, okay? Of course, this is the big scandalous thing. This is the funny part to me. So when we talk about this guy, he violated all these draconian measures, and then he went and had these polyamorous sex parties with all these people. So, you know, to go to spend his youth, his best years, to go to school and then be a doctor, and then seeing that it's all a facade, and it's all for status and money and power, this lifestyle that he's chosen, and then working all these years for government, where he's seeing that the name of the game is just to convince people to take medication. And I'm sure there's a lot I don't know about his life, but just that, it's such an empty existence. Just being in this kind of administrative position, it's no wonder that these people have sexual deviance. In his own words, sexual deviance. That's what he calls it. I'm not even saying that that's what that is. He's saying that. I'm not surprised. Now, in my opinion, any kind and any amount of sex, provided that it's consensual between, you know, consenting people, adults, I think anything is normal and should not be considered anything but normal. Okay? I take the standpoint, though, that so it's not immoral to do any of this stuff, even this freaky stuff with orgies and stuff. I don't have ascribed to any of this sexual immorality that people talk about. But I take the standpoint that abnormal sexuality is anything that strays from two people voluntarily coming together. So you got more than two people, you've got this stuff, you're getting away from natural, you're getting away from normality now. Also, if you have less than two people, if it's just one person, right, or asexuality, 0 people, that's also going away from normal. Now, I say this like, I'll get back to it anyway, but what I'm trying to get at is people in government, they have a problem with intimacy. Of course they do. It's obvious they do. They tell people what to do all day, when voluntarism is the foundation of any relationship. Like, sex is about two people coming together, and they have like their private thing. It's like a sacred thing. It's only theirs. It's like they're the only two people in the world, and it's like every time it happens, it's like you're discovering something that only you know with that other person. So he's doing this freaky stuff. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's obviously abnormal. He knows it's abnormal, and this is why these people have that. And a lot of these people will be in government, in these positions. So now, in government, of course, you're compelling people to do things. Compulsion, right? Coercion. And compulsion kills any intimacy. If you have to do something, you're not going to be able to. It's not going to feel good. So honestly, with this guy, it's good that they took Molly and had sex parties. It honestly releases the frustration that they take out on the population on a daily basis. You know, the only bad thing about it, the worst thing is that they took MDMA, which is great for a bit, but it comes at a very high cost to your emotional well-being long term. It's a premier mood destabilizer. That's the worst thing about all this. And honestly, it's good. It's a good thing that sex is not only for beautiful people. It's even for ugly, self-loathing control freaks like this guy. And you know, that's wonderful. That's how it should be. Let these kind of people find each other, and let them have the orgies and the sex parties. Let them do it together, so they leave us alone. And it is wrong, but it's not wrong in the sense that they need to be ashamed of themselves, that they're, you know, such a deviant, and they should be guilty, full of guilt, and ask for forgiveness. It's not wrong in that way. It's not immoral in that way. It's wrong in the way that it would be wrong to use like a can opener or nail clippers to drive a screw. Like, you could do it, but it's just not the right tool for the job, and that's all. So that's, you know, that's how I feel about that. Of course, it's a scandalous thing. People jump on that. At the end of the day, I mean, my only problem is what he's doing at work, private life. I'm not in anybody's bedroom. I see no problem with this. Now, what I find really interesting, though, we get into this stuff, is this guy's mindset. I found his mindset to be very like vanilla. He actually doesn't surprise me. He's just honest in what he thinks. This guy is just a pawn. He's like a prisoner given a position of power over the other prisoners. So he does the job just as well as the mastermind, as the warden of the prison would do, except he's disposable. So that's why he's useful. This is what we call useful idiots. Jay Varma, this guy's a dime a dozen. There are so many people that would act just like him. So don't make the mistake of thinking that this is who runs the world, because he doesn't even have a satanic view of life. It's just a cynical view. It's just like a looter's view. Like, I'm gonna get all I can get and do what I want. So to me, he doesn't even understand the nature of the control structure that he works for. This guy's not in the club. In my opinion, he doesn't know where the control structure descends from. He's not in the know about the ancient archonic lineage of power, and that he's just serving a barbarian way of thinking, that he's, you know, serving the old kings from the Dark Ages, who, you know, just laugh at guys like this. He's a useful idiot. And this is just like the misconception is just the same as the misconception that corporate greed, that like money and corporate greed is like at the top, the tip top of the pyramid of oppression. And I hear that all the time. A lot of people think that, you know, greedy billionaires are the ones controlling the whole world, and it's all been bankers. It's really not the point. If you just think that, you're missing the mindset. You're missing the cult aspect, the religious aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, and you know, you think it's just Because to say that greed does this, you're basically saying that this is in the nature of human beings, that if you had all that money, that you would crave that power too. It's false. I wouldn't. And this guy, Jay Varma, he's just like, if you let the average guy, go wild and have all these positions, he would act like that. I think the average guy would become like this man if he's exposed to a certain kind of environment. And this is why he's not in the know. He's not one of your controllers. He's just in the buffer zone. This is who you see, who you think is holding you down. This is not the guy holding you down. But let's go more into his psychology and get where he's really interesting to me. He actually admitted, we make it very uncomfortable to be unvaccinated. I enjoyed hearing this because I talk about like subversion, and I've talked about these little frustrations in daily life. This is kind of like one of the most ambitious things for me, one of the things that I question the most if I should talk about, because it's the least hardcore proof that I have for these things, right? So when I say that the construction that all summer they were doing on all of the highways in Chicago, I hesitate to say that because I don't know it 100%, but then I find all the supplementary, information where the Frankfurt School and everything that people talk about actually doing this, the Lawrence Dunnigan recording where this guy actually talked about it, Richard Day, another person in healthcare, was talking about doing this stuff like that and just frustrating people and breaking down their everyday life to really make them surrender and give away their freedom and demoralize them, right? Where we talk about Yuri Bezmenov and demoralization and subversion, right? I've talked about all that, and I really like that he confirmed that when it comes to vaccination, that, we do what we do to frustrate you, to break you down. We make it very uncomfortable to be unvaccinated. Your kid doesn't fucking go to school. You can't get a fucking job. This is great content, this guy. And this woman that he's with, who's like undercover, she's like, wow. And he's like, oh yeah, that's what you do in healthcare. That's what you do in public health. And I loved hearing it. It's a really, really great admission. And I hope people get this and don't forget this. Okay? He makes a point. This guy is, he makes some good points. He talks about seatbelts and airbags, and he touches on it just briefly, but it's a great point that the seatbelt, you don't have to wear the seatbelt, but it's just going to beep and it's going to be annoying as hell all the time. And these new cars, they're more and more annoying in how they do that. He has all but confirmed that is the premise behind that being implemented, because nobody has actually admitted to that. Like, no car companies have said, to my knowledge, we're doing this to annoy people so we can on a global scale make them more obedient, right? Make them follow rules more. But there's the admission of that, and this is one of those things that I always wish I could have some red-handed proof of that, smoking gun proof, and this is the closest we have, to my knowledge. Anyway, I have two cars. I have my work car. I have a 2004 Toyota Sienna. It's a great car. You can fit plywood in there. You fit all your tools in there. You take out the middle seats, have a bunch of room, and you get the job done. That thing will never beep for anything. It has no beeping. It has no auto locking mechanisms. None of these frustrations of connecting and CarPlay. None of that. It's just a car. It just drives. You get in there, and it's mechanically functional, and that thing runs forever. 3.3 liter engine. I got over 270,000. I got 444,000 kilometers on that thing. It's a Canadian model. Anyway, that is what I drive Monday to Friday. Then I have a 2007 Acura, and that one will beep at you if you don't have the seatbelt on. I'm just letting people know, because this is like my way of dealing with things. I don't want to be annoyed. I hate, I get annoyed very easily. I hate little annoying things like that, and I hate people telling me what to do. So I do put on the seatbelt. I put it on behind me. Like, I'm not fucking around. Like, don't play with me. And there are always workarounds, right? There are always workarounds with these things. There was even a workaround with the vaccine mandates of religious exemptions. And I know. But when there comes a day where there are no workarounds, that is the time to kill. And yeah, because it may be such a dumb thing, you know, like a seatbelt, but at the end of the day, if you're not free, if somebody can irritate you that much, and you know that's what they're doing, that is the line in the sand for me. Okay. But anyway, he says this, that they build barriers and people just want to avoid being harassed, and they say, fuck it, I'll just get vaccinated. Another point he made, on the admission that he made, is that the facts, the science, right, the education that they give people, it's not there to actually change the minds of the public. It's there just to justify, so that when the people surrender and they give up and they do what the government says, that information is only there to justify to themselves why they surrendered. And he says this, I guess it was the right thing to do. Again, I'm very grateful for this. Not many admit this. While we're talking about psychology, one thing that I did find striking with him is he has a disdain for human choice. There is a disdain for free will. So he has some of this satanic mindset. He does have a very low view of humanity, and I talk about that time and time again. Is because he has a low view of himself. This is where these people come from. The worse a tyrant is, the lower of a view he has of himself. Control, right? We talk about control. He wanted to be in control, and he says, why do you want to be in control? Why are these people control freaks? Because they don't feel like they're in control of themselves. And I guess it's all connected, because he says this, that you're attracted to what you don't have. Right? This is one of the quick points that he made, is that, like, you're interested in what you don't have. And he uses the example for himself that, for example, he is not artistic. He can't draw, right? Yeah, that's right. Someone who's artistic. That's what he wants. That's what Varma has never had. And you can tell this is somebody who has no creativity. He's never made something from nothing. And we'll talk about why. And let's pull on that string and go deeper into it. Yeah, I'll let this unravel first, because Steven Crowder, he actually confronted Jay Varma. So they met in person. This is just a day ago, I believe, where Steven Crowder talked to him, and I'm actually going to play that now, and I'm going to show you what I see wrong with all of this. Not only Jay Varma, but Steven Crowder, and I'll talk about my problem with right-wingers too. That's what confrontations are for, so let's play them. Again, it'll be 7 minutes continuous, just so you know.
We may never be able to get them to answer. But today, I was able to ask Dr. Jay Varma.
Oh my gosh! There you go.
No, we do some corporate events and stuff like that too. So he's one of those clients.
Yeah, we actually had a problem with one of the. I'll talk to you about it later, but.
Oh my gosh, this is so random.
I know.
Like, what are the odds in New York City?
Well, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I just got into town here yesterday. So.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how exciting! Well,
are you good?
We're just.
I haven't been here.
What are you doing right
now?
Supposed to be working, but I don't think I'm.
Okay. Do you want to have?
Yeah, grab a drink. Grab a
okay,
drink.
cool. We're gonna have one drink and then get out of here. So.
Sure. Yeah. Do you mind if I grab this chair?
Oh my gosh.
Does that work? Okay, I'll speak.
Are they?
Yeah.
So what do you work on then?
Well, I work in media. But, you know, it's one of those things, a big guilt complex. So we have to do these fundraisers every now and then. And it's like, you know, save the koalas or turpid sloth or whatever the hell it is.
So you're saving the whale?
It's an environmental thing. Or not. I don't really know how much we're. You know, you hope the money goes to the right place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how do you treat each other?
He's really smart.
Yeah.
Why is that funny?
I don't know why.
I would assume.
That's a very interesting way. Like he's very smart.
Well, I mean, anyone. I just remember like hating whenever I took some sort of science class or whatever. So when I do meet anyone in healthcare, I'm like, okay, I already know that you're like.
But that's always the thing. Like you get attracted and like are interested in people who have skills that you don't have. Right?
Yeah.
Like when I meet people who are like artistic and stuff, I'm always like, oh, wow, maybe you do because I can't draw.
Well, I would be scarier if you said he's in healthcare. He's really dumb.
Yeah, I know, right?
Last word for anesthesiology.
I'm so sorry, my boss is calling me. I have to say, I will be right back. Sorry, you two get to know each other for a second.
There was a period during which there were no restrictions, no mandatory restrictions in New York, and I know this, I was always on the ball. There were no mandatory restrictions, and there was widespread COVID. And what happened? The entire city shut down because no cafe had a work.
My point is when there were shutdowns and restrictions, it seems like rules for thee, not for me, if you're having sex parties with people in hotels.
I think the idea with all of that was basically, again,
if you're having sex parties and dance parties with 200 people while people there get punished if there are 10 or more at a gathering, or more than 40, and you have a dance party of 500 people, that seems like... My question is, you obviously doing that...
Isn't that true with everything, though, in life?
No, not everyone's having sex parties when they encourage lockdowns for other people.
No, but there's a million rules.
If you weren't afraid of it, why those policies, my point? If you're afraid of it, you wouldn't be having sex parties and you wouldn't be having dance parties with 200 people when everyone else is locked down.
No, because I'm saying that it's not...
And not checking for vaccinations.
It's not individual.
Right?
No, those are totally different issues. I mean, I think
you know what I'm talking about.
What I'm trying to get at is the main issue is it's not about individual level risk. It's the same thing as driving.
But it is about you as a government official being the architect of the policy.
So those things are
having sex parties and having dance parties while businesses are being shut down, and New York sees an unemployment that's twice the national average as a result of policy.
During the time, I wasn't going to these dance parties in the first year and a half of COVID. I don't know what you're talking about.
You weren't having sex parties? And then dance parties?
No. My wife and I had a party with like 10 people who everybody got vaccinated. Not vaccinated, everybody got tested and things like that.
It was over 12 people. When the gatherings at that point, you had to do in secret because no one else could gather 10 or more. People were dying alone because they couldn't visit members in the hospital.
I think you're missing the bigger picture.
And when you had 200 at the dance party, that's 5 times the amount for everyone else living in this city.
I wasn't at any big. I don't know why you're talking about me specifically. I wasn't at any dance parties. I was literally
sure you did. Yeah, you did. You had a dance party of 200 plus people. You didn't check their vaccination status.
No,
I went to?
Yeah.
Just like
when?
Oh, we're trying to move in.
No, you want to bring it up.
So our parents are coming. This week, actually, like later this week.
Like in the summer, I think the first time I went to a dance party was like the summer of
coming from Korea.
20.
You understand though how that's a tough sell to the American people, the business owners.
We had an outdoor event in July.
I get to spend more time with them
the summer
of like food or something.
COVID or something like that.
And then
I think we were at an outdoor event in the summer of 2020.
I don't know how much
I wasn't at an event the summer of 2020.
So
it was an outdoor event.
You had sex parties.
You have a dossier on me?
Yeah.
Why? What is going on here?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been affected by this policy, and my question is genuinely, just level with me here.
More offensive?
Dude, you weren't afraid of it. Here, we got the mandate clip.
But why? What is going on here?
Get vaccinated? Sex parties. That you had sex parties where you rented a hotel. Everyone had a blast. The timeline is that is during the time when people were still being locked down. And then he had dance party later on. This was in May or June of 2021, which still would have been 5 times beyond the amount that everyone else in the city was permitted.
Yeah, so when the war happened, and they split.
Yeah, the summer of 2021.
And Kyrie Irving wasn't able to play basketball because he wouldn't be vaccinated. But you're at a dance party.
What's going on here? Are you trying to like?
Yeah, I can tell you. So I'm Steven Crowder, and I know everything that you have been talking about, and a lot of people have been negatively affected by your policies here in this country. And I just want you to level with me at this point. If you were living where you're not afraid of it, where you say, I mean, right now you're giving me the story of it's only a certain amount of people who wear a mask. You're having sex parties while that's happening. You're having dance parties.
I'm also telling stories to somebody.
And you also,
it's probably better if you get married.
and the teachers, you have kids. I mean, New York, the results have been abysmal. I mean, the decline in mathematics and education, the reading levels, it's twice the national average. At what point is there some accountability or culpability for people in this city? This city is not what it was.
I liked moving in with Jordan.
You're the architect of COVID policy.
Got to
if you could you could change it. Would you still do it?
Yeah, when you live with someone, whether they're a roommate
You
or...
Would you still do it?
I didn't realize that
Yeah,
I was
I am.
being set up for something.
I'm Steven Crowder, and this is going to be for the
now
public
you
to
know,
see. If you have anything that you want to say about
this
it.
is like...
Yeah, that's a good
I have that question. I have one more question.
This is...
deBlasio, is he a weenie because he didn't enforce more authoritarian measures, or is he a weenie because he didn't stand up to the teachers union who irreparably harmed children?
Yeah, same old. But, you know, dad's getting what dad's going.
Is he a weenie because he didn't do more to lock people down while you were living high on the hog? Or is he a weenie because he didn't have the spine to stand up to the teachers union, who I think we would both agree
My dad was saying, like, oh, he read this news article.
corrupt and didn't do what was in the best interest of the kids and harmed a generation of students.
He's like, oh, it's very logical. And then my mom...
Okay, so here are the things I don't like about what Steven Crowder said to him, and it's not to complain about him. I'm just using it as an opportunity to learn from this interaction and then how we can move forward to be better ourselves and to change the world, right? That's what it's all about. Number one, he tries to call him out on hypocrisy. He really sticks on the hypocrisy thing. So it's okay for you, but not for everybody else, right? And that's low-hanging fruit, because he told people to lock down and everything, and they said it was so deadly and so important for you to lock down. And then he's over there, just living life, partying. Well, okay. Tyrants never follow their own laws, right? I don't see that as the problem. I see the problem with the people that follow these laws. To ask these tyrants, these control freaks, to be consistent with their own lives, it's like with their own lies, it's an irrelevant point to me. It would be better to state, we're not dumb. We can see through you. And the more you treat us like children, the more you won't be able to control us. Like, let's not pretend that this guy's supposed to be moral. We know who he is. He's a weasel, he's a rat, he's a snake. So Crowder also says, you told everybody else to fear this, but you clearly didn't fear it. You had no fear of that, of the virus. So again, if he did fear it, it still wouldn't be okay. So it's a waste of time again. Like, this is why freedom-minded people always lose debates. Maybe they win them on the internet. Maybe Charlie Kirk and Steven Crowder, they always win on the internet. But you, with your family and your friends and your neighbors, you always lose your debates. You always get frustrated in conversations. Why? People do this, they lose the debates because they engage on the terms of the opponent. It's always the utilitarian, the material, and the factual. We love to prove them wrong with facts. They make fun of us for being conspiracy theorists and not factual. So we find a study and then we rush to give them the study, and trying to use authority and government against itself, trying to use like their medicine against us. And that's good. Of course, that's good. That has its application. But the way you change people's minds is by showing them a paradigm that they're not used to, like first principles and the mind, and using real psychology, like really cutting through. So like Crowder stresses that Dr. Jay Varma, he showed no remorse, right? This is another big point. He showed no remorse. There was not an ounce of self-reflection. He asked him, like, would you do, if you had to do it over again, would you have done the same thing? And then wanting this self-reflection from him. And an example of like how I would change people's minds if I was allowed to speak then, I would say, yeah, people like Varma don't do self-reflection because they don't have a self. There is no self to reflect on itself. They behave like robots, like cogs in a machine. And we mistakenly attribute the qualities of an emotionally healthy adult to them. That's a mistake on our part, to treat them like human beings. Get what I'm saying? And this stuff about showing remorse, never demand emotion from someone. And this is what society has done to us, making us think that it's normal to be sorry and guilty for the littlest thing we do, right? Innocently, we try to do something, it doesn't work out, and we want to say sorry and apologize. And a lot of the COVID social harassment was done through guilt, making people feel guilty if they didn't follow the rules, if they didn't wear a mask, right? If they didn't get vaccinated. and guilt about things and people they had zero to do with. There was so much of that, and we need to do away with that. We need to do away with, first of all, us showing this emotion that we wouldn't have done if not for the pressure. And then really we need to do away with expecting emotions from other people. I don't care what anyone feels like. I don't care what you feel like. All I care about is if your behaviors are harming others. That's how we're going to get free from tyrants. And that's also how we are going to end abuse and neglect in the world. That's how we're going to cure all the emotional issues. Not by demanding remorse and wanting to like people think about the worst kind of pedophiles and offenders, like, oh, they want to torture them, they want to put them through what they put those poor people through. They want to put them through what they put the children through. You can't do it. Again, you're ascribing human qualities to somebody who's a piece of trash. You can't demand or legislate emotions out of people. Look, I can't tell anyone how to feel because I have no tools to objectively define and prove emotions or intentions. I can objectively define and prove actions. So that's the realm of natural law. That's actions. If you can prove actions, you can go ahead and deal with these people straight up. But if you can't objectively define and prove that I'm hurting someone, then you don't tell me what to do, period. Jay Varma or anybody. You don't tell me what to do. I don't care who wins the election or passes a lockdown law. I don't follow it. If not for this, I wouldn't have even known about it. Now, when it does, that's a different story, right? That's where I take it to action. But until you do that, you don't lift a finger in my world. Come and stop me. And unfortunately, men, especially people, are just way too afraid to die. And really, your fear of death is what brings you closer to death, unfortunately. You have to be willing to risk this. It's the safest thing to do, to be radical in your willingness to sacrifice for freedom. It's one of the safest ways to live. I'm a very safe person. But, if it happens to somebody telling me what to do, I'm ready to let it go at the drop of a hat. And them knowing that you're that willing to do it, that makes them stay away. It's like open carry. I openly carry my willingness to sacrifice my life. Okay? As I greatly advise other people to do the same. And I'm missing that in anyone I listen to in the world. I don't hear anybody that talks like that. And I get the sense that conservatives are just so lame in how they speak their points, right? And who they do it to. Like, why does our goal, our peak achievement, seem to be to beat someone in a debate? Like to make a meme out of them, And this is why I don't get down with the right-wingers of today and of any day. Because if the conservatives were in the climate that the liberals are in, if it switches, they would have acted just like this guy. Like most people. I don't mean the average guy who votes. I mean like... I do mean the average guy who votes. The average guy, the predominant mindset would be like this if you were in that position. Just on different issues, different topics. Like, for example, with Israel, you're seeing that now. With Israel, people say, the same people that are talking about freedom of speech and all this, they're saying, hey, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. They're going to say, yeah, they might be killing and torturing some innocent people and killing some kids, but look at the terrorists. They do the same thing. So look at the result. We're still saving lives in the end. And they would be just the same as Jay Varma's justification that, hey, yeah, we force people to do things and harass them, but he believes that the vaccine is actually saving lives. So he's saying, hey, we're saving lives in the end. I'm justified in what I'm doing. That's what the conservatives have done and will do again. Have we forgotten that the Patriot Act and Homeland Security and all this surveillance state stuff was all done under Republican government? The false flag that kicked off this new millennium of slavery, it was done under a pro-America, God and country, common sense type of administration, right? Have we forgotten that, my friends? And then more about what I don't like. Then Crowder starts dropping these factoids on him, you know, education levels drop twice the national average. Again, I don't like that because I don't assume the public school system is good to begin with, right? So I don't use all of these statistics. Unemployment went up so much, you know, doubled the rest of the national average. And my problem with it is not even that on its own merit. It just sounds like little factoids. Like you're talking to somebody and you're dropping little factoids. Like, what are we supposed to be like? Ooh, you got him. Like it sounds like you're trying to throw that moral righteousness right back at him. What they tried to do with us during the COVID response, that we got to do this if we're moral people. It sounds like you're trying to get that out of him. And I really think that a confrontation like this, it should just be like a real grilling of this person's mind and soul. Like, for example, when he says, you know, he pushes rules for safety for people and basically implies that it's because they don't know any better. He actually says this. They're not going to do it if we don't make them do it, so we make them do it. So, you know, it would have been good to say, who has the right to tell you who you can and can't have sex with, right? Because in another time, he wouldn't have been able to do that, right? No one has the right to tell him what to do that. But you, this guy, Jay Varma, you don't even believe in your own philosophy. You believe that people are too dumb to make their own health choices. And it's true, they are. But there are also people who are too smart to let anybody make a health choice for them. That's more and more people now. There's a large percentage of people that are just too smart to let anybody make choices for them, no matter the consequences. And both those people that are smarter than Jay Varma and dumber than Jay Varma, they have exactly as valid of a claim to their own body as you, Mr. Sex Party, you know? The difference is, though, none of these people harass you, you harass them. So really, it's not the dumb people that need your rules and barriers, it's you. These are the only kind of people that actually need, to actually need force used against them if they act on this thing, on this mentality that makes them abuse, coerce, harm others. It's the only type of people in the world that actually can only be reasoned with by force. They're the same people making our laws. Okay? Another thing, like, I would say, Mr. Jay Varma, so you understand that an individual level risk is outside the reach of a collective mandate. He admitted to this, saying that, you know, on an individual level, him breaking that rule is not a big deal. It's completely different than the societal level. And I don't pretend like that's like that doesn't make sense. I think most people think this deep down. I think most people are not principles based. They're outcome based. So they expect others to follow rules that they break. So people will see somebody run a red light and be like, damn, that guy's a fucking idiot. He's a crazy driver. But then they may do the same thing. Or they'll see somebody throw a piece of garbage on the street and like, damn, that guy trashes the street. He has no respect for the neighborhood, all of this, like he's a piece of shit. But on another occasion, there may not be another garbage can or whatever. They might just feel they might be a little drunk. They might feel like they just don't care that day, right? And they would do the same thing, but without that context. So we all can make justifications when we have our own context, our own subjectivity. But then with other people, we seem to demand this kind of adherence to all these rules. I don't buy it. See, I don't believe in all of these rules. The rules stop at the level of really harming others. And then these things, throwing trash in the street, how you drive. Look, if you're harming somebody, if you make somebody slam on the brakes and endanger their life, then yeah, that's a violation. That's a problem. But If nobody's watching, there's nothing saying you got to stop at a red light or anything like that. There's nothing saying you got to drive on the right side of the road. At the end of the day, what determines it is, are other people affected by it? Are other people harmed by it? So it's all an individual. All of these situations, the justice is individual. Justice can only be applied to an individual action, an individual act, never collectively. So these rules aren't as cut and dry. So I don't have a problem with this guy violating all these rules. So I wouldn't grill him on that. I would say, I would honestly, breaking those rules, it was correct to break those rules because they were immoral. They were not valid rules. There was not a valid rule that you couldn't gather or go outside or not wear a mask. So I don't believe he should have followed those rules. I didn't follow those rules either. So my question would be to Jay Varma, so who determines then who has the discretion or the right to be that exception? Because he admits that, there's an exception. You can have an exception to all these general trends and rules. So who determines that you're that exception and you can gather with 20 or 200 people, and who needs to not be that exception and stay inside, muzzle up, and follow the rules? I would ask that, and I would expect the honest answer to that question to be something along the lines of intelligence, if you understand the science and the risks, and being responsible, right? That's probably what he'd say, something along those lines. This is what he would think, at least. And my answer would be then, yeah. And there's a class of people above health administration who are intelligent and responsible beyond your understanding. These are people who do the right thing without ever following rules. They don't need the rules to do the right thing. They understand it on a level that rules are not necessary. They know the right thing to do. And they have the blueprint to reproduce that outcome. They don't just feel the right thing. It's not just intuition. They know what the right thing is to do, and they can thus reproduce that outcome on a societal level. That's us. That's your natural law anarchists, so to speak. And really people who live that common sense type of life and have never even named it, right? Because it is a natural thing unless it's, broken, unless it's ripped away from you. So it's like, fall in line, little man. We don't recognize your idea of public health. I would have really liked this confrontation to go more like that, right? So we can clearly show who's winning in this circumstances, who's the real man here. Because bottom line, Jay Varma, this is a broken man. This is a toothless Indian guy who always wanted to feel like a real man. That's why he spilled everything to that woman that worked for Steven Crowder. He never had a woman like that. He always wanted a woman like that. He never had one because they don't go for his type. So he tried to impress her by listing off all of his misuses of power, like bragging about how brazen he was, like a movie villain. And look, I've done this. I've said some of the dumbest shit ever trying to impress a girl. And looking back on it, it's like I said the number one thing to push a girl away, like talking about what other women I've been with. And it's all because of this insecurity. Like, I wished that I was this type of guy that experienced all that type of stuff. And it's the same thing with this guy, Jay Varma. He listed off a resume that should suggest how independent and free he is, right? And I've done the same thing. I listed off things I've done, and it's supposed to be like a resume, a record that's supposed to suggest how confident and experienced I am. And look, and so the things he said and the things I said, they may not be technically false, but they're not true. He took Molly with those people, and they may have taken their clothes off, but he was not his authentic self, like he says. He wishes he was an authentic self. An authentic self is something that he has not developed. You could tell by who he is. He craves liberation, Yeah, that's why we go to raves. That's why we take drugs and MDMA. Like, we're looking for that connection. And he admits that this is what eludes him, where he talked about the creativity thing. He says, yeah, you know, people who can draw and stuff, I'm not like that. No, not people who can draw, Jay. People that have a connection to a self that is immovable and untouchable to anybody. And that's the fountainhead that creativity springs forth from. And that's the way you wish you would have impressed that girl, Jay, with the way you speak, being a way that no other person can mimic. Like, this is just one example. This is just like poetic speech, like having an original way of speaking, as an example. So the things you say in conversation on a date like that, like saying something special, showing her something she's never seen before. There you go, Jay. Now we're talking. And Steven Crowder, like, that's how you put somebody on a hot seat. You gotta cut them motherfuckers deep. Because it's any sort of humanity is buried so deep. But hey, honestly though, my thanks to, and respect to Steven Crowder and his team, because this is great and valuable information. I'm grateful for this. It wouldn't have happened without him. So I've said a lot of criticism. I've criticized him more than I've criticized Jay Varma. But credit where credit is due, you know. And I'm going to link the full video here. You should see it. You should share it. But here's how it ends.
If you could do it all over again, would you do it the same way? Or would you allow people their freedoms and not harm New York City like you did? Looking back,
I think
did you make some?
I think that everybody who worked in public health and healthcare during COVID was saving lives.
Really? By harassing them and making them uncomfortable.
Our house now is kind of in the...
Saving lives. And that's how a certain subset of our country see it. Lockdowns, unprecedented numbers of businesses closed forever, vaccine mandates, and unprecedented abuses of vast government power. If that's what you view as saving lives, and you are in a position of authority where you can make a difference, I will find you, I will expose you, and I will shame you.
Ends with the arm flipping walk, you know, I will find you, I will shame you, and like, oh, he's gonna drop the mic. Like, damn, he got his ass. It's such a wasted opportunity. Because Steven Crowder, by the way, is a funny guy. Like, he's a comedian, that's his thing. He could have totally ridiculed Jay Varma, Dr. Jay Varma. And I think that's how it should have ended. They should have brought her out to point and laugh and call this guy out for how sad and pathetic of a person he is, that he ever would have thought that she liked him and then she should leave with Crowder. Like, that's what that would have made would have made an impact. That would be a significant occurrence that would resonate with people on both sides. On both sides, both these weak ass men, and then with strong men or young men that are looking towards, you know, inspiration, looking to find their way in this fucked up world, right? And I get maybe she wouldn't have wanted to do that for many reasons. So whatever, not gonna, you know. But the way it ends, it's like cornering a rat and then letting them get their defenses up. You know, after a while he just stops speaking. It feels like it should be rewarding, but it's not. It's a bit of a letdown, isn't it? It's anticlimactic, I'd say. And I just get this sense that Crowder treats this guy like he's actually the leader that his credentials say he is. Like Jay Varma is actually a decision maker. When in reality, in life, he's so far above this guy. He's just above him. Jay Varma should be ridiculed, not showered and launched with all this, not hit with all this disappointment, and it just suggests that you held him in some kind of high esteem in the first place. I don't get it. I would have never been able to take this guy Jay Varma seriously myself if I would have seen him before, and partially due to the fact he does look like Bert from Sesame Street. He just does, you know. It's like people take offense to the elitism of these people. It's unfortunately true that people are easily led and don't act in their best interests. Like if you're drinking alcohol, smoking, making shitty decisions, getting in shitty relationships, people do act against their own self-interest. But the power structure, these are not the elites. We are. Like people who are trying to break free from the system and have developed the courage to go in this direction. This is the elite. And I'm not an elitist. I don't live my everyday life thinking I'm above anyone. Because honestly, a strong person never does. Like, they mind their own business. I don't think, oh man, this guy's such trash. You don't think like that. But when I deal with people with this mindset, and I haven't done it to any Harvard graduates, obviously, but I see this mindset in coffee talks with people, in Facebook chat rooms, and when I see it, I use it against them, just to cut through and show them who they are. I think it should be done. What I mean is, like, I flex on these people. Like, I'm the guy you wish you were. I'm the motherfucker you try to be. You want to replace me because nature put me on the throne. And I don't think that way. I know that's like I don't think that way. But they do. So even in their world, they're nobody, right? Even under their own laws, they should be ridiculed. They're at the bottom now, not because of a strong, independent, living human being is just above a guy like Jay Varma. That's the way to say it. There's no other way to say it. You're just the better human being than him. And it's not by birth. It's not by God-given gifts, right? It's not because you're tall, or it's not because, you speak in like a, convincing way. It's not biological nature. It's not how intelligent you are or what family you were born into. It's by choice, by their actions, by people's actions. Some people are above others, and they just are. And if you're honest with yourself, you're an honest human being, you don't harass others, you're above this guy. He's a rat. And we should laugh at these people who tell us what to do on television and in government buildings. And if we did laugh at them, if we honestly just laughed at them, there would not even be enough obedient soldiers to stop us. Ridicule really would... How do we get stopped? We get stopped with ridicule and social pressure and influence and narratives. This is what I've just talked about the last show. So why didn't Varma get schooled like those lefty college students that Crowder has made a name off of? Because you can tell, you watch them, the two of them next to each other, you could tell Steven Crowder is the healthier man. He's better looking, he's more charismatic, he's just more of a man. But instead, in this, Steven Crowder is very serious. He put on the serious face. He tried to interrogate him like a reporter. And I started watching this and just thinking about it, and like, maybe these two men are more alike than it seems. And then that was confirmed to me. So in a sort of a twist, I'm going to play a video that I just a few hours ago found about Steven Crowder. And this is from an incident in 2021 where Steven Crowder, now the guy that exposed this guy, he was having a conversation with his wife. His wife was pregnant at the time. She would later give birth to twins. And in this video, you'll just see it for yourself.
I drew a boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary of abusive and cruel. You were not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There is no groceries. I do have
steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's an unreasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes. How does a man respect? How does a man receive love and respect? No. How does a man respect? No, you're not taking the car.
Stephen,
you're not taking the car.
Stephen,
you are not.
Then I will ask them to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
It's not correct, Stephen.
Get an Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
Like, I can't
Stephen.
go. Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either.
See,
Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Stephen.
You're making it work. Can you do that? The only way out of this is discipline and respect. It's the only way out of it, or we're at an impasse.
We are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline or respect.
Stephen.
Yeah. There you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up, Stephen.
Hillary,
Stephen?
you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. You need to just stop engaging for a little bit, okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you, and the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it, you go, no, but I love you more than life itself. Okay, put on some gloves. No, but I love you more than life itself. That's not fair. That's not fair, and it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right, we're at an impasse. Become someone, listen to me, day in and day out, worthy of a wife. No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not gonna engage. I'm not gonna engage anymore. I'm gonna go. I'll text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not gonna.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you, I'm committed to it. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm gonna just
walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dogs take? No, you take that in.
So, discipline and respect. I don't love you. Become wife worthy. It's not to make judgments. People have said like lack of context. Like we don't know the context. Let's just not totally cross this guy out as an abuser. And look, sure, she may have been a terrible person. I don't know anything about her. I just saw this. It's really not the point. I'm not saying he's abusive definitively. It's not the point for me to judge this about people. The relationship stuff is complicated. I don't know what goes both back and forth both ways. The point is, you're seeing in Steven Crowder here somebody who is starved for respect. He doesn't feel like a man. And that's the only reason men ever act like this. This is some of the softest, weakest shit I can imagine. And it makes sense why he acted like this with Jay Varma. They're two birds of a feather. So, to take it full circle and back to my original point, don't get fooled thinking that the world is run by people like Dr. Jay Varma. He's just a nobody that got pulled up into an administrative position. But in fact, even the people, the entities that run this world, they're irrelevant. In their own way, they're interchangeable as well. It's a machine. It's the mindset that matters. The mindset keeps it going. And the mindset that enslaves this world is that the natural, organic order is undesirable. This is what the elites think. The natural and organic order of life is undesirable because it forces people to earn or deserve what they get. So I say earn or deserve. I'm talking about, justice here. Everybody gets what they deserve, and I say earn or deserve because some people don't get nice things because they earn them. Maybe they were just born with a natural gift. Some people are born naturally, they're gifted, so they're gonna get things that none of us are gonna get. That's still deserving in the sense that it's warranted objectively. It's not like stolen, right? It makes sense why you would want that. That's just the way it is. The law is justice and equilibrium in the world. That is the natural order of things. The elites, there's a group of people who want all these riches and gifts and rewards and all this respect and admiration, but they're either unwilling or unable to earn it, so they set up a way to turn the world upside down and to make themselves be the recipients of all those good things without ever earning them. And the people who do deserve all those good things, for them to like give it over to these people that don't deserve them, which is the opposite of justice. That's what Satanism is. But even beyond Satanism, this is this is the mindset that controls the world, that enslaves the world. And the way you do it is by giving people that mindset that they can have things without earning or deserving them. And this is why there are no men today. Because to be a man today, you have to be a warrior for freedom, because there's just too much abuse. There's a war going on. So if somebody's like destroying your family, raping people, like taking everything away from us, and you're not doing anything about it, you're not a man. Easy, simple criteria. And here you have two examples, Steven Crowder. But both of them have this mindset. Steven Crowder, or I'm going to say they behaved in a way that exactly exemplifies this mindset. Steven Crowder, he wanted his wife to respect and obey him, right? Clearly without earning it. Because if he had earned it, she would have wanted to do it. You don't ever have to tell her that, like, oh, you don't respect me, do all this stuff. I've said this when I was like 20. Like when I was like younger. I said this to someone who I was dating at the time, that like, you don't respect me. And looking back on it, it's just because I didn't feel like a man. So I didn't feel like I was being respected, because I wasn't deserving of the kind of respect that I wanted. It was just unearned. You get me? So, and this is what it is. Like, the things that you want from a woman, she should want to do it. If you have to, like, my question to everybody is, if you, like, for me, it's not even a question. For me, anything, I want a lot of things, but anything that I want, if there is even a little of a sliver of thinking that this woman doesn't want to do that, I'm done. I don't want it. No, thank you. I'm fine. I want a whole lot of things, but you have to want it. And I want all these things, all these awesome things. I want to earn them. If I don't earn them, it's worthless anyway. I don't care if I find, like, if I hit the lottery tomorrow, if I win $1 million. If I win the lottery, I'm not taking it. I only want what is earned. So, you know, clearly he didn't earn it, or, and I don't know, or maybe he married a woman that she didn't earn or deserve, you know, the same treatment that he was giving her. Either way, I doubt it. I doubt it, honestly. There's just instinctively, I'm gonna say Crowder's the one who's off here, and I think his life being a YouTube content creator, and I think it makes him stressed out, and he also had I don't know the syndrome, but I know he had a big problem with the caved in sternum, I believe. I don't want to say it wrong, but serious health issue. He has titanium plates, I believe, in his chest. So there are a lot of things we don't know. I'm not gonna just say somebody's a piece of shit. I'm gonna say Jay Varma's a piece of shit because he was forcing people to do things and he was working for the government. But I don't pass judgments on people. And either way, this situation with Crowder, there's an expectation of an undeserved value or outcome. Okay, now to Jay Varma, he wanted to be somebody. He wanted to be a powerful man, a desirable man, and then he wanted to be a free spirit, all without the individual introspection, self-work, to be honest about who he is, and to find his true value as a man and then project the true value as a man. That would make you, that's what makes you independent. That's what makes you that dude, that kind of dude that you want to be. And he hasn't done that, clearly. But the real Jay Varma is somewhere deep down in that shell that looks like Bert from Sesame Street. Okay, he could, hey, you can't affect how you look, he's just gonna be like that. But it's not the point. Everybody has so much value if they would just learn to bring it out. And it's amazing how your energy can really like a 1-2 punch, like go together with the way you look. But that's a different story for a different day. The point is, all these soft-ass men could redeem themselves, including Steven Crowder, including Jay Varma. The narrative is yours to write. I'm not asking them for remorse or guilt and shame or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, you still have the choice to be a man. And I focus on the men, but this is the same thing with women. You have the choice to be authentic human being, and when it's your last day here on earth, you're going to see that was the only thing ever worth pursuing, is to earn all these good things, to make the right choices, because this is what you take with you. This is whether you take it with you or not, this is what matters. Are you being your true authentic self? And it's not easy, but it's also not easy to just be a lazy piece of shit all your life, or to be a guy that lies to people all your life to get some money and a mansion, and then still look like a complete jackass who basically got made to look like an idiot because he doesn't even know how to talk to a woman. He has to go to these parties and take their clothes off, and still missing the intimate connection. You have to go out into yourself. You have to face the obstacles, the trials. Individuality is forged in struggle, and that's why it's the most rewarding thing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.